Hi fellow nerds, let's talk about stream health. Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Game Doc Teaches, where we talk about the different things that you could do as a streamer to help improve the quality of your viewers' experience. Now, we've all had it happen before where you're streaming, you're really getting into the game you're playing, everything's going great, chat is blowing up, and then all of a sudden your stream quality drops. Boom. So here you are in the middle of streaming, panicking. Is it your encoder? Is it your OBS settings? Did you do something wrong? Is it your ISP? Well, it could be a variety of different issues. So we're actually going to walk through a couple of the tools that you have in order to really identify where the issue is coming from. So if you're having issues with your stream quality, there's a couple of things that it could be, but we're going to talk about three major ones today. And those are hardware, your encoding settings, and your ISP or stream stability, basically your internet service. Now, the first thing to understand is not to panic. Yes, it may be a little inconvenient, especially if you're in the middle of streaming, but with these different tools that are available to you, you should be able to quickly identify the problem and hopefully get it fixed and continue on with your streaming experience with little impact to your viewers. One of the first things you want to do is to check your settings in OBS or whatever streaming software that you're using. But if you look down here, one of the things you'll actually see is some performance statistics. So it'll actually show CPU usage. So one of the things to notice here is that my CPU usage is about 6 or 7%. If you're in that 70, 80, 90 range, one of the things you're doing is you're overtaxing your CPU, which would cause stutters in your feed. The other thing to look at is your frames per second. So here I'm sitting at a pretty solid 60 frames per second. If you see this dip up and down, if you see a little signal here that says dropped frames right here, if this is going up and you hit like 20, 30%, then what's likely happening is you're overloading your encoder. It basically means that if you're either using your GPU or your CPU, however you're encoding the actual signal, you're trying to broadcast in a format that is simply not supported by the hardware that you are currently using. The other thing to note here is the KBS. So KBS is a measure of the signal that you are outputting towards the Twitch servers. Now, there are various recommendations that Twitch puts out for your KBS based on the type of resolution that you're shooting for, the type of quality that you're trying to output towards your viewers. One of the important things to note is that the recommended settings for 1080p 60 frames per second is 6000 KBS. That is a recommendation. Now, you could actually broadcast more than 6000 KBS. In fact, the best quality for 1080p 60 frames per second is actually closer to about 10,000 to 12,000 KBS. However, you will not be able to broadcast at 10,000 or 12,000 KBS. In fact, Twitch hard caps streamers to right around 8,000 KBS, even though it recommends 6,000 KBS. Now, that's important to note because in order for 1080p 60 frames per second to even look reasonable, you will have to be broadcasting at that higher KBS signal strength. Now, I ran some tests on my own stream to figure out exactly where that hard cap was for Twitch, and I found it to be right around 8,500 KBS. Once I went past that point, Twitch actually forced my stream to downgrade in quality, forcing me to run at 720p, with no warning or no indication. In fact, my viewers lost the option to view my stream at anything but 720p. And that problem persisted until I refreshed my stream. I actually had to close out of OBS altogether and restart the stream in order for that to clear. Which means that the sweet spot for 1080p 60 frames per second is actually right around 800 or 8,000 KBS. That also gives you some room for that 320 audio KBS upload to give you the best audio and video quality. So you go through all that, you make sure your settings match, make sure that your encoder matches what you're trying to do, your quality settings are okay. Okay, doc, what do I do now? Everything looks fine. I still can't figure out the issue. Okay, well, again, there are a couple of tools that you can use to actually test the signal that you're outputting towards the Twitch server. Okay, one of the tools that you can use to diagnose where the issue is actually located in the streaming software itself. So I'm running OBS 28. This should be available for OBS 27 as well. But if you go to File, Settings, and check under Stream, you'll see this neat little option here that says Enable Bandwidth Test Mode. If you go ahead and click that, hit Apply, okay, you can actually start streaming to a test server that Twitch actually uses. So notice that you'll get a little pop-up that says, are you sure you want to do this? And click OK, start streaming. And so you'll actually be broadcasting a live feed, but it will not actually show up as a viewable stream. That allows you to run certain diagnostic tests on your actual streaming signal to make sure that it's not an issue with the signal. So one of the tools that Twitch provides its users is the Twitch Inspector tool. You can get to this just by typing in inspector.twitch.tv, and that'll take you to this little handy page. Go ahead and log in. So mine's the GameDoc, of course. Yours will be whatever your login is. And what this will show you is all of the broadcasts that you've done within a specified time period. So in this particular one, we are looking at the past 2 days. I can look at the past 7 days right here. I can also look at the past 2 hours. So for instance, if this is an issue that you've experienced in just the last couple of hours, this will actually show you. So one of the things you'll notice with the signal that I have right now is that it's extremely unstable, and it'll actually tell you right here that the signal that you're putting out, it's unstable, my friend. It cannot, your ISP cannot support what you are trying to put out, which in my case it's 8,000 kbs, which is 1080p at 60 frames per second for me. Now it's important to note that not everybody will have the availability, the internet connection available to provide above that 6,000 kbs mark, which is okay. You don't necessarily need to. In fact, many Twitch streamers stream at 720p perfectly fine. And if we go back to the Twitch recommended guidelines for 720, notice that it is significantly less at the 60 frames per second and the 30 frames per second. So you can actually have a pretty decent quality stream only uploading at 3,000 kbs. Perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. In fact, a majority of Twitch streamers stream at 720, 30 frames per second, simply because that's what their internet provider supports. Now, another tool that I want to talk about is Twitch Analyzer. Twitch Analyzer is an open source code tool that is designed and developed for and by Twitch streamers. You can go to it just by typing in the address r-1.ch/analyzer. You can also simply go to Google, type in Twitch Analyzer, Twitch Analyzer tool. There it is. Click on it, and that'll bring you to this handy little page. This is completely open browser. You don't have to download anything. All you have to do is go to your channel, copy your address, your channel address, into the little search bar, click go, and it will actually measure the signal in real time. Now this will take a couple of minutes, but once it pops up, I'll show you what it looks like. So once it goes through and analyzes your signal, it'll produce this little handy dandy report, which will give you a lot of different things. So up here, it'll tell you what Twitch TV channel it was looking at, when it started, how long it took, and a couple of other different things. So we've got bitrate stability. One thing to notice here is that I was actually pretty stable during this time, during this actual test, outputting at pretty close to 8,000. So this means that I should be able to handle 1080p 60 frames per second perfectly fine with reasonable quality. One other thing to note is that this is just the video signal. It does not, or this does not account for your audio signal. Audio signal is another 320 kbs typically if you're doing a high quality audio signal as well. So that's another thing to take in consideration. One of the things it does note here is that my average kbs is pretty high, and this may cause some problems for viewers. So if your viewers are on, let's say, an old laptop or on a home phone line for some reason, they might have some issues with viewing your stream. It could cause buffering issues for them. It could cause skippage. There's a lot of things that it could cause on their side. You can help fix this, or rather they can fix this, by utilizing transcodes. Now, transcodes allow a viewer to manually adjust the quality of their viewing experience. It is available for all partners. However, once you get to the affiliate and non-affiliate level, it is first come, first serve basis. So not all channels will have the availability to manually adjust the streaming quality, which can also impact your viewer experience again. For example, if you are outputting at a 1080p signal, but your viewers can only support a 144p signal, they will not be able to view your channel, which is one of the reasons why transcodings are so incredibly important when you are a streamer. Now, heading back to the Twitch Analyzer tool, the other thing we can check it for is if we had any dropped frames. So we're again trying to put out at 60 frames per second, and we had 0 dropped frames throughout that entire time. Now, if I was overloading my encoder, for example, this could get upwards of 20, 30, sometimes 40%, maybe even all dropped frames. And what that looks like on the viewer end is significant stuttering, loss of signal, just generally a huge impact to the quality of your streaming. The other thing we could check here is video frames. So again, we're trying to put out 60 frames per second, a stable signal of 60 frames per second, which we are actually doing. However, stream had 1,056 duplicate frames, about 64% over this streaming period. Now, what that means is that in this particular case, OBS is having a hard time providing a stable signal to the Twitch server, which is causing buffering issues. It's causing stream stuttering issues, all of those quality issues that we've been running into. Quality check, bitrate seems sufficient for the resolution and frames per second that we're out producing. If you had an issue with the bitrate, let's say your bitrate was set at 3000, for example, and you're trying to produce, you're trying to output 1080p, well, then this would show up as an X, and it would say something like your bitrate is insufficient for the resolution that you're trying to put out. So Twitch Analyzer is a fantastic tool to use in conjunction with Twitch Inspector, just to take a look at the quality and stability of the signal that you are outputting to the Twitch servers. Now, the other thing to think about is what Twitch server are you actually broadcasting to? Because that can vary. Now, if you haven't changed this before, OBS will actually default to what it thinks is the best server. Usually it'll say auto recommended, and every time that you boot up, every time that you stream, it will automatically select a server based on your initial startup settings. That does not necessarily mean that it is the best server for you to be streaming to. Now, notice I am actually located in the US, Midwest US, so there are a variety of different servers that I can stream to. So you may be thinking, Doc, this is great, but how do I select what server to stream to? Well, there's a couple of tools that can help you determine that. The one that I recommend, and the one that I use pretty frequently, is also provided through rich.net. Now, again, you can find this simply by typing in Twitch server test tool. That'll bring you to this little page right here. This is completely free open software. This actually does require you to download a program packet. It is safe. I have checked it, but I do recommend that you check the packet with your virus software just to be on the safe side. So what this will do is allow you to ping the various servers in your area. So we're going to go ahead, click on the download file here. That'll download it. We'll open it up here. And this is what you'll get, this little packet here with an install internet shortcut that'll allow you to download the software onto your computer, and this handy little Twitch test tool here. We're going to go ahead and click that. Do you want to make changes to this app? Click yes. And this is what we're hit with. So since I'm in North America, I want to go ahead and select North America. And now it's going to ask what stream, what signal do you want me to measure? So in order to get that information, what you have to do is you have to go back to your channel, go down to your settings, stream, and right here, your primary stream key. You want to copy that, go back to the bandwidth test tool, drop it in here. And there you go, you're ready to go. North America. Hit start. Now what it's going to do is send a packet, an information packet, to all of the listed servers. So here, since I'm in the US, there's actually quite a few. It's going to measure the bandwidth at which you are uploading the signal, as well as the time it takes to actually ping that particular server. And based on the information that it gets back, will give you a quality signal. So in this particular case, I pinged the server in Quebec, Canada. Took me 46 milliseconds to ping that server at a bandwidth of about 4,000 kbs, which is not bad. And it gives me a readout quality of about 45. So it's kind of average. It's not the greatest thing in the world. It's not the worst thing in the world. Now, it's going to continue to run through all of these. So one of the things that I'm looking for as a streamer is a quality measure of 90 or above. You can get by with something like 80, but that will actually impact the quality of your stream as you're outputting to the Twitch server. So ideally, 90 and above is really where you want to be. So the other thing to look for is the length of time that it took to ping the server. So in this particular case, I am pinging Chicago, Illinois, the two servers in Chicago, Illinois, anywhere between 27 and 29 milliseconds. The other thing to look at is my bandwidth, 9,000 kbs, absolutely supports that 1080p 60 frames per second signal that I'm going for. Unfortunately, the quality, which is a measure of the stability of the signal, is not quite where I need it to be. Now you may be like, okay, great, GameDoc, I've got this information. What do I do with it? So now what you want to do is you want to get back into your OBS, your streaming software, go to File, Settings, Stream, and select the appropriate server based on the information that we're getting from the test, the bandwidth test. So in our particular case, one of our strongest signals was actually from the Chicago, Illinois 56 server here, right here. So I'm going to click that, and the next thing I want to do is to test that signal to make sure that it can support what I'm trying to do. So enable bandwidth test mode, apply, OK, and start stream. We'll get the same information pop up, click yes, it's going to connect, start streaming. And if we look down here, ideally what you'll see is a nice little green box, which will give you a visual signal that everything is okay. If you look at our KBS is pumping out at 8,000, which is right where we need to be for 1080p, 60 frames per second. So in this particular case, everything is looking golden on my end. So what I would do now is continue to run various tests to make sure that my signal maintains stability, that I still can continue to output at 8,000 frames per second without any issues before I continue streaming. One other thing to note is that once you finish your stream tests, then make sure to go to File, Settings, Stream, and make sure Enable Bandwidth Test Mode is off. Otherwise, you will not be able to stream to Twitch anymore. You will still only be able to stream to the Twitch test server. Now, while it seems that switching servers did in fact fix our issue regarding the KBS, the upload, and we are hitting pretty close to that 8,000 KBS, which is where we want to be for 1080 60 frames per second, I will continue to periodically test my signal throughout the day to ensure that I am in fact getting a stable internet signal. If I continue to have issues, and if you've gone through everything that we've been over here today and you're still having a problem, I highly recommend reaching out to your internet service provider. Make sure that you're taking notes with all of the signal tests that we've done here today, and that you actually provide those notes to the technician when they come to actually check your signal. That way they're working with as much information as possible to help them diagnose where the issue lies. So we've gone over quite a few tools today. I know there are quite a few others out there. If you feel like there's one that is particularly useful that I did not go over today, feel free to go ahead and drop it in the comments section. Also, feel free to reach out to me. I stream under TheGameD0c on Twitch Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 9 a.m. to about 12 p.m. CST. Would love to see you there. Hopefully, some of the information that I went over today will be useful to you in identifying the issues with your stream, and that way you can continue to provide a quality experience for your viewers. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate the support. Stay nerdy, my friends. The doctor is out. Bye-bye.